IVM.
Hey everybody, welcome to another week on the IVM Podcast Network. As I mentioned last week, we're going through this COVID-19 outbreak, and because of that recording schedules, we're trying to keep them, but it's a little uneven at this point in time. Beg your indulgence. While you are stuck at home, I think one thing that might be interesting to do is maybe check out some of the complete series that we've done. The Colaba Cartel, the Woody Woodpecker, Cricketwala Chronicles. These are limited series that are complete. Might be a good time to check out those. Also want to thank our sponsors this week, HDFC Life and Paytm Money. And with that, let me get you onto your show and stay safe, everyone.
Welcome to Absolutely Right. This is your host Aditi Surana. In today's episode, we have Gauri Devidayal with us. Gauri is a multi-passionate and supremely talented law graduate, chartered accountant, tax consultant, podcaster, and a restaurant owner. She co-owns The Table, a fine dine restaurant that has won much recognition and accolades locally and internationally. I personally love The Table. It's one of my favorite places to go to. Gauri was featured in GQ's 50 Most Influential Indians recently. She's also one of the hosts for the show for IVM podcast called the Colaba Cartel. While we take a break, you can check her out on Instagram at Devidayal and check out her podcast show too.
Are you looking for India's most awesome cricket podcast? Are you now tired of listening to the same old guys drone on about cricket everywhere? Edges and Sledges is a weekly cricket podcast hosted by three fans of the game, Varun, DJ, and myself, Ashwin. It was established in early 2018, has over 60 episodes now, and is of course now proud to be on the IVM Podcast Network. Each week, we get together from three different time zones, the USA, the UK, and Singapore, and we talk about things from the world of cricket, with a focus on Indian cricket. We often interview special guests from all around the world, including former cricketers and cricket media personalities. So check out Edges and Sledges, the cricket podcast, now on the IVM network.
So today we have Gauri Devidayal on our show. Gauri is a founder of The Table, to begin with, CA by profession, and so much more. So Gauri, hi.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. How are you feeling?
I am totally not nervous about being analyzed on audio, but go for it.
I'm asking this question just to make sure that I drive deep into that feeling and begin from there. So what we're going to do on the show is I'm going to ask you questions generally about life, and I'm going to look at your handwriting to ask you better questions. If you have any questions for me, you can ask, and then I can probably have some insight based on handwriting. But the whole idea is to have a conversation because I feel that you, after reading about you, after enjoying and relishing the amazing food at your restaurant, I believe that you are slightly crazy. And I'm curious about crazy people forever. I feel like you require that slight madness to do the kind of things that you're doing.
Probably, yes.
So tell me, why this move to this new industry altogether at a point where people generally do not jump into it?
So I think, as you mentioned, there is probably some streak of madness somewhere. But honestly, I've never actually been that impulsive or taken a decision that's, really that inexplicable to most people. I've been a very organized, love my whole life to be planned out, millions of years ahead. And, to be honest, when I made the switch from my life as an accountant to restaurateur, I think it was also very calculated because I'd been working, as a tax professional for about 8 or 9 years by then. And I just figured that what's the worst that'll happen? I'll go do this. And if in a year it doesn't work out, I'll come back to this. I think I've got a sort of strong enough base.
Backup.
So it wasn't, it didn't feel like, it felt like taking like a sabbatical for a year and going on a bit of an adventure. And, if things didn't work out, I'd just come back to...
But a sabbatical with a fine dine restaurant.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. So it was just, I think, I find like every sort of 8, 9, 10 years, So the restaurant's now just turned 9, so it's that time when I'm getting that what I call a 9-year itch, I guess.
Okay.
And I think it just comes to that, where sometimes you just feel like you want to do something different, and what the hell, like just do it. And then there's I think I just realized that I could come back to what I was doing, and so it wasn't a complete streak of madness. Although, yeah.
So you're a borderline.
Maybe. Well, I'm sitting here right now, aren't I? So
that I guessed immediately. Don't worry. So, what was the most difficult part while making the switch? You know how most of the time when people want to make a career switch, they struggle because so much happens within you. You cannot simply jump. So what was after having made that decision, what was really tough?
I think the toughest thing was actually convincing, my family and people close to me that I was not doing something completely mad. And that, the other thing was I was not just quitting a stable, well-paid job where I was on a sort of good career path.
Yeah.
I was also, taking a plunge in a completely new field where I would be working with my husband-to-be.
So
this was just wrong on so many levels to people around me. And I think, for having convinced myself, or even if I wasn't convinced, sort of having decided to do it, convincing those who kind of, whose opinions are valued and
of course,
whom I look up to, that it was fine to do and to kind of support me rather than convince me otherwise. I think that was definitely a bit of a struggle.
And I'm sure they tried.
They did. They said that, well, of course, it's up to you. But here's
that
what
was the
we
worst
think.
line, yeah.
And now, of course, they can't stop saying that's my daughter or my,
Aww.
my whatever sisters or my this
So
or that
sweet.
restaurant.
Yeah.
So, no, it's very sweet. And I mean, to be honest, I think they were just looking out for me. But I did want to sort of have their approval, I guess, because I have had it for throughout my life, and I think I just wanted them to be sort of not just saying yes, but being actually supportive, and they were. I mean, to be in all fairness, they were.
So sweet. Yeah. So what? That was the only difficult part after jumping in. After
and then
taking
of course
the
there's the whole thing about learning
Okay.
about a whole new industry. No, I mean, of course, setting up a restaurant for the first time with absolutely no background in hospitality has its fair share of challenges.
Of course.
And but I think it was just, I think that's the whole thing about what I was mentioning earlier about, this every 9 years, is that you feel this urge to like learn something new. And I think I wanted to challenge myself. I mean, this may not have been the most sensible way of doing that, but, I felt like I wanted to sort of be a little bit shaken out of my routine and sort of, I was very comfortable where I was, and I love routine as well. But I think that there is something inside me where I want to, do something new. And I think that sort of helped me to, take on the sort of challenge of learning all about a new industry. And it was definitely a long journey. It was an expensive journey. And but I think somewhere inside we were just very excited about it. And of course I was working with, my husband or person I was
falling in love.
Yeah, so it was all like got to spend lots of time together and all that rubbish. But
Yeah.
No, it was fun. And I mean, honestly, it was so long ago that I don't remember the pain. But I'm pretty sure there was a lot of pain.
I'm happy for you. If you don't remember it, worth
yeah.
it. Completely worth it.
It's like pregnancy, right? Like you go through it and then you're like, never doing this again. And then 3 years later,
you do it again.
For someone to go through all of that again.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
So when I look at your handwriting, one thing that stands out, that you are very emotionally connected person. Anything that you do, you have to have your heart into it. And if you're not convinced, if you do not have your heart into that moment, in that project, in that idea, no matter how lucrative it is, no matter how amazing it is for other people, you would walk away.
I think, you've pretty much hit the nail on the head. And that's a little scary because I don't know what else you know now about me.
Okay, why don't you ask questions? I will only talk about what you asked me to talk about.
Am I going to make lots of money?
Oh, that's future predictor. No, I can't go there.
I'm kidding. No, I think you're right. I don't know if that's sort of a feminine quality in general, or it's something that is, comes across more so in me. But you're absolutely right. I am one of those people who's very sort of logical, and I have to be convinced by something myself before I can sort of, you have my buy-in, or I'm sort of fully invested in it.
But once you're invested, you keep the logic aside, and then you really operate with your complete heart, which is very strange, because if people see that side of you, they try to give emotional content or reasoning for you to be convinced. And you're like, no, I'm not an emotional person. I am a logical person. Give me logic to be convinced. Once I'm convinced, I will move to the other side. But if I'm not convinced, I'm going to be asking you all the right logical reasoning related questions. And people totally get you wrong on that front. And then you walk away and they wonder why that happened.
Yeah. No, I think my husband will fully agree with you. No, you're right. I think that once I'm convinced and it's something that I feel strongly about, then I'm all in, all hands,
or all
feet,
out,
everything.
And all out.
Yeah.
Either way. So it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a challenging sort of, when I look back at sort of the last 9 or 10 years, I think there are times when this sense of wanting a strong conviction about something, the flip side is that you also have to be very open-minded about other people's opinions. And sometimes it's hard to be that if you're so convinced by your own logic. And I think that one thing I've realized is that while I may be convinced, I've also realized to be a little more open-minded about, a different point of view. Because I'm not sort of, yes, I am seen as the face of the brand, and but my husband's Jay is as much a part of the business as me, and he is a completely different person. And a lot of what has happened is because of decisions that we fought crazily over, and somehow he's, sort of either convinced me, or I've decided unconvinced to sort of go with him. But now I've learned over time that, I may not necessarily see the rational sort of reason for doing something, but there's, I want to sort of believe that someone
has the reasoning required.
That I may not see at the time, but, will sort of play itself out.
I always speak about this. People think firmness and being stubborn are the same things. And they're not. Like, you're very firm, but you're not stubborn.
I think I've evolved that sort of from being stubborn to being sort of firm, because it doesn't work. It's not sort of my way or the highway.
Yeah, and stubbornness has a lot more ego into it. It requires you as a preference-driven person, whereas firmness is about what is required to be done. Yeah. And you are like very what is required to be done, at least now for sure. What questions would you like me to answer?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Anything. If I can't answer, I would say I can't answer. So anything that comes to your mind, or something that you're right now kind of pondering, dealing, thinking about, or people misunderstand you in a certain way and you want to like have clarity. I'm like, but why they think about me like this? All of that as well.
Oh, so is this like a free therapy session?
You can consider that. I'm a professional therapist. So yes, we can jump into it if you like.
No, I think, it's... This profession or this industry has a way of sort of, consuming you in a way. And I think that, I don't know if it's this industry or it's the fact that you have your own business, because you're sort of invested 24/7. And it's, and especially because I work with my husband, it can be a big challenge to sort of segregate that
personal and
professional, and now we have
taking a time sort of, off, and
we have a 6-year-old daughter, and who just comes to work when when we need to spend time together, because that's
how it is
how we
done.
Spend time together. And so I think that it's sometimes I do question whether I love what we do. I genuinely sort of love eating, as you can see. But no, I mean, jokes apart, I do love what we do, and I can see so much potential for sort of, growing our business and, pursuing this, pursuing what we do in this industry, and also other opportunities. And it does excite me. And I think, I don't put it down to any kind of like entrepreneur or not spirit. It's just something that I enjoy. And I think it's a question that's constantly playing in my mind is that where do you draw that line between pursuing these exciting sort of dreams, projects, ideas, ambitions, and kind of also just living your life outside of it, and I don't think that they have to be separated necessarily, but sometimes I feel like maybe they do, because it just consumes you otherwise.
So knowing you, there is no idea of separated life, and it was never there. Like even when you worked back in the day.
But is that a good thing though?
I'll come to that. But see, whether it is a good thing or not, that only depends on the kind of person you are. When you used to do a job and it was not like your baby that you're taking care of in terms of business and entrepreneurship projects, you literally still thought about the issues and you wanted to solve them in the best possible way. You took them home, you thought about it, in the middle of the night, and you wanted to get to the best possible solution in every possible way. Now that's you. Now whether you do it for someone else, you do it for you do it as a mother, you do it as a wife, you're going to do that. So there is no kind of separation as an idea for you. You're not like a segmented, segregated, none of that happens. You're like, okay, I'm here, I'm going to bring everything possible to this solution and we'll figure it out. Now in that case, taking a break might be a better idea than segregating. Because if you see something that you do as a mother helps you solve a problem somewhere else, and there what you do at the restaurant helps you solve a problem somewhere else, and you think like that. Some people are interconnected in their thinking, so they do not have different approaches or different roles. You are the way you are. Wherever you go in the conversation, you literally, you carry yourself. Also, I want to bring your attention, and even for the listeners, your signature and your handwriting matches a lot. Mm-hmm. Almost like as if you're writing your name, that's how your signature is. That is a sign where the person does not have, this mask or this entire persona built up when the person deals in a social space. And you are that. Like I call it like walking with complete vulnerability. So that is also a reason why you get hurt a little bit more. You are more exposed than other people because you're out there. You're not protecting yourself. You're not layering. You're not showing one face and being someone else. You're there. And that is who you are. Now with work, relationship, everything, all you require to do is find some time for yourself where you can do some physical activity. So I believe you do gardening.
Yeah, I try.
Yeah, okay. That could be a great escape because if you do that, this is where you're not talking to other people, or like swimming, like literally in the pool, nobody can have a conversation with you and you're by yourself.
Yeah, I said that about diving actually when someone asked me that what I enjoy about it, and it's that I literally can't talk to anyone. No one can reach me and it's pin drop silence.
Wow. Yeah. And that's so true. Like I haven't done scuba diving, but I have done snorkeling. And that's like similar, but definitely scuba diving is much quieter. But you require those quiet moments. And the busy life is the busyness in your mind right now. The noisy part of your mind that we are talking about. Like it is constantly trying to respond and react to something or other that is happening, and you feel driven by other people's requirements all the time.
Absolutely. Yes.
So we require a breather.
But it feels like you can't actually switch off from your own business because you don't want to drop the ball, or I feel like I don't want to drop the ball.
Agreed.
And it's not a slow kind of business where you see the impact later. It's a very like real time kind of thing because people are coming, they're dining, they're giving instant sort of
feedback,
reactions and feedback, and you can't afford to sort of just switch off at any point is how I feel.
And that's why I'm saying forced switch off. So when you're in the water, you can't do anything about it because if you're out, you can reach, you will reach.
Yeah.
That's who you are.
Yeah.
And I feel if we accept ourselves and we say, okay, this is who I am and I'm not going to change that about me, then we just find hacks around it.
Right.
So your hack would be you go away, like, when you're diving, when you're in the pool, when you are gardening.
In fact, I just told, I told Jay, I said, because we really were talking about how we really need a bit of a mini break.
Yeah.
And I said, I know this sounds really bad. But I said, let's go skiing to Gulmarg because there's no internet there. And I know that sounds like really wrong for me to say that right now because that's, it's obviously affecting people in an adverse way. But I was just like, can we just take advantage of that somehow in the context of our lives, which is that we actually want to switch off temporarily and and throw in some skiing for good measure.
But actually, that is a great idea, and you must do that periodically before your temperature reaches the point where you really want to run away, escape, feel burnt out. None of that. Like, you just have to do it periodically.
Yeah.
So, great. And I know you know this, but just to mention, you are a clear introvert. Right? So any social interaction is tiring. You love to talk. There's a very interesting part about introverts who have great skills of talking. So if you know
but don't necessarily seek it out.
Yes. Yeah. So you know how to speak and you love speaking when you choose to speak. But when you don't, you want to be quiet. And that is I think it's the most misunderstood thing. We believe introverts struggle to speak. And those who are good at speaking believe I'm obviously not an introvert. But you are. So you gain energy by spending time alone. You gain energy by doing things that are completely exploratory. So any activity that
that is so true. I feel stripped right now.
So any exploratory activity where you can build your perspective, question your perspectives, you can literally look at things through the exercise, conversations, choices that you make. You would love that. So you surround yourself with that, and that would really be nurturing.
Lovely. On that note, I'm going to plan that vacation the minute I step out here.
What else?
I think just taking off from what you just said about, I'm quite happy sort of spending time by myself and, doing whatever I'm in the mood for at that time. I enjoy writing. I enjoy sort of reading. And I'm very happy being by myself. And, I find that, obviously my daughter is young and our daughter and my husband, they're quite happy in company. And it's this constant battle of, I think wanting space comes across as almost a negative sort of, reaction or a negative approach to to things.
Wanting to run away from things as people perceive it.
I am not running away.
I'm smiling because I have a similar problem. Right. So most close relationships, they go like, but why are you being disconnected suddenly? Like, I'm not. It's just that I need space right now. And they're like, right now in the middle of this companionship, I hear you.
Yeah. How do you deal with it?
So have you ever heard of Brené Brown?
Yes, the name is very familiar.
Yeah, Brené Brown has a Netflix special.
Oh, right, yes.
She is a researcher on vulnerability and she calls herself a storyteller. She has done a lot of work on building boundaries in relationship. So she speaks about how can you connect with people completely, like what we were talking about. You fully have your heart there. And at the same time, building boundaries when you're connected. So most of the time, people like you and me who seek out space do that from disconnection. Because you do it when you reach the point of feeling completely overwhelmed. And you're like, I can't take it anymore and I need space now. Like in this moment. And when you do that, people around you who are so connected, so close, they're like, but I was trying to be, romantic, affectionate, connected. Why are you breaking it away? Now, it's not breaking away from that space, but it is if you take a score of it and you start building boundaries and if you really help people to deal with how to deal with you in the moment, they can really be of great help. So I have a sign called timeout with people around me and they understood it over a period of time. Like it took some time, a lot of struggle. But when I say timeout, it's not about them. It's literally about wanting that breather. Yeah. Like sometimes it is just 5 minutes. Also, I believe washrooms are great spaces. You literally take that time and, sometimes you run a little regime. You do a reality check. But there are multiple things one can do if you know you require to do it. Because it is not about the other person. It's only about you breaking your boundaries and letting other people in so much that you reach a point of overwhelm. feeling overwhelmed. And with a child around, I know it's very difficult. Like, you cannot do it. Like, so many mothers, especially in this age, you cannot suddenly disconnect. So you have to take your breathers, and I believe being aware about it helps a lot.
Sure.
Being aware that, okay, where is my trigger point? So I remember there was a point I used to feel hangry. And when I was hangry, I took complete privilege to be a bully. And I didn't realize it because I was busy being hangry. And then I started realizing, and people around me used to feel cautious. Like, now she's going to be hangry types. And I observed it, and I realized it's unkind on my part to do that to them. So I told myself I'm going to build triggers when my hunger starts building and my mood starts switching. All of us have these superhuman capacities. It's just that we don't know, we have to look at it. So probably this conversation could be a great beginning to look at it.
Yeah.
So where you start feeling that people are entering your space. And then you're like, okay, this is what happens. And even for our listeners, if other people are irritating you, if they get to you, then definitely it is about you letting them in beyond your own capacity. And it's not about pushing them out. It's either the two ways. Like, one, I understand what my capacity is, and can I expand it a little bit more? If I can, great. The person kind of, I can deal with it. Or I understand I'm not ready, and I find my breather. Both ways.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, I think, one other thing that sort of in our business, the conventional industry norm would be to sort of be growing your business by, expansion, and you're constantly sort of opening new spaces. And in our case, we found that I think one of the reasons the restaurant has sort of lasted this long and sort of is still well received, in year 10, is that there's a lot of us in it. And it's a very personal sort of space for us, not just the table, but all our projects. And I think that's the flip side of expansion, is that, because you're so personally invested in it, and in terms of sort of time and energy, not just financially, it sort of holds you back from growing, because you can't be in multiple places at the same time, and you can't be, everywhere all the time. And, you sort of need, you don't think anyone can do it the way you do it.
Of course. It's a classic delegation challenge that people who love what they do have.
Yeah, and I think that, as someone who's traditionally been a bit of a control freak and, a perfectionist. So it's like, if you're not doing it this way, just stop, I'll do it myself. It's just easier and faster. And, I mean, of course, I've changed. That's because I can't be doing everything myself. But I think I still struggle with it sometimes in terms of expecting people to learn how to do things the way we've set them up in, over the years at the restaurant or any of our brands, and understanding that philosophy and then, taking it forward.
And doing it every day.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that, it is frustrating at times, and you don't want to let it sort of, get to you, and you just sort of have to let people make mistakes. But I think more than a question, it's just something that I consciously have to make the effort to do with the people working with me now, and to, groom them to a point where...
So are you a perfectionist? Yes.
Yeah, completely.
Yes. And that comes with... so let's look at the perfectionism in a different light. If you are a perfectionist, that also means there's a space to feel unsaid, a fear of rejection, fear of making mistakes in public, not only making mistakes, but in public and being caught for it, feeling self-conscious, not like for yourself, for the activity, because you take so much of ownership that if someone says this is not good,
I can't handle
to hear it's like Gauri is not good. It's not only like that thing, that dish. It's
you
not
take
that.
It personally.
Completely.
Yeah.
Now, is it a great thing? I do not know. I can't comment. It is a very stressful thing for sure.
Yeah.
So one of my clients taught me this. He said, I'm using this line. Do not take this personally.
I know. I hate it when people say that to me. I can't stand it. I'm like, every inch of this space is personal. It is completely personal, and I'm proud of that. And so don't say that to me. Yeah.
Yeah, so no. It's not what he tells other people. He tells this to himself.
Oh.
Like, do not take this, whatever activity I'm doing personally. That is his reminder. So, how you say it to other people, do not take it personally, but I'm going to insult you right now.
Yeah.
So, not that. He literally is like, before others could tell this to me, and because I know I own it to a point where I do not want to let a single inch away, he said, I'm going to tell this to myself. Okay, I'm doing this, but I'm not going to take this personally.
What does that mean?
So, when you take something personally, you make it about yourself. Everything is about you. If it is good, it is about you. If it is bad, it is about you. And we don't realize it because we understand, most entrepreneurs understand this as taking ownership. They believe this is how you take ownership. You make it yours. And then you can't share it with the other person.
Because I think it's more than not sharing it. I think it's that you take, it's if you're taking full responsibility and it is yours, it is your creation. I mean, you can't say that, when the things are going well and like when there's positive feedback or
it's mine.
There's huge compliments that I'm going to take all of that personally. But when there's criticism, I'm not going to take it personally.
No, I think he also meant, and what I pondered about it, and more I thought about it, I said, yeah, it's kind of interesting because he was saying that I won't take even positive personally.
Okay, that doesn't happen.
But think about it. Like the very moment you start looking at your space and...
no, it's true. I mean, I think, again,
I know it doesn't happen.
It's not a one-man show. And so, I may, again, be the one receiving the compliments or the criticisms. But I think it's thinking about it like that just that you don't say, yes, it was all me cooking, serving, conceptualizing, cleaning, washing, everything. It's so also not just me doing
when things break and they go wrong or people say mean things. It's not always you. And I'm sure it's like not mean things, but it's the approach or the angst that people bring about.
I think it's just we're also working in a very different environment today than maybe 9-10 years ago when everything is so accessible and it's I think that definitely makes an impact on us where everyone can be in the limelight kind of instantly and
micro celebrities.
And it's just it's even if you don't want it, you don't have a choice, you're in there. So either you have to completely switch off from
the internet.
The internet, and that's not practical, I feel. And so it's definitely something that I guess it is that then you're right that you have to tell yourself not to take it personally, just like you're not personally responsible for everything great that happens in the business as well.
So when you disconnect and in a way like step away from both, there is so much more space. I remember a story there. Imagine having a balloon or a football on the surface of the ocean, and it is like on the ocean, on the surface. So as the wave goes up, it goes up. As the wave goes down, it goes down. And the balloon or the football feels very excited when it goes up and really scared when it goes down. Now imagine moving that balloon 10 feet away and giving it human eyes and human brain and looking at the waves. You can enjoy the motion of the wave only when you're disconnected. There's a concept spiritually, people call it detached involvement. So you're 100% involved, but at the same time you're slightly distant, detached, and you see the motion of the wave. Otherwise, you're so attached to it. You go up and you go down, you go up, you go down, and you literally feel the motion in your gut. You cannot disconnect, and thereby you cannot have an objective perspective. That the very moment you become objective, you become disinterested. It happens to many, many people. They're either involved and completely attached and then they want to fix everything, or they're disconnected and they're detached. So we're talking about that middle space where you're looking at the ocean, you're looking at those waves, at the same time you are at a distance. So you're looking at it from a distance, so you can see it for what it is. A small feedback, or as women, we know this, things we fret about. After a month, we realize how petty they were.
It's only happened 1,000,000 times and it still keeps happening.
And but it happens, right? In that moment, that little mistake, that imperfection consumes you completely. Just having the perspective in the moment when you're being consumed is difficult, but that's the way of this problem that we are talking about. If you're being obsessed about something, if you're fretting about something, finding ways to have slight disconnection is a great activity.
Great.
Yeah.
Well noted.
So you were talking about writing. What kind of writing do you do? It's a...
I write about, I keep having these ideas in my head, and the instant sort of thing is I've like thought about, for example, writing a blog for ages, but then I just know I can't keep it up. Like I'll have these like bursts of, and I think it's like I wake up really early in the morning when no one else is awake, and I just that's when I'm like the most functional in my head. And so I have been writing articles for sort of publications, connected to the industry, or depending on what's happening in F&B, for example, or travel writing. Sometimes I get asked to write.
So there's a particular stroke in handwriting. We call it flow of thoughts, and I generally ask people to do it as a practice, like a therapy based on writing. In your case, you already have that woven in your handwriting. That means you love writing, you have that skill gifted to you, you have to explore it. That is your stress buster, that is your, like literally that time away from the world that we are talking about is writing for you. So if you pick it up and spend dedicated time to write anything, including your personal journaling, writing to friends, whatever, like physically writing, even typing in that case, but writing would even add a lot more. You will just find that time and space that you are asking for on a daily basis. Yeah. Even if it is 15 minutes, it is great. It would work. We don't require like 1 hour and, like a long period or travel away. It's just like a little escape for you.
My sister's going to kill me. She's the writer in the family.
Oh, so why would she kill you?
No, I don't know, because she's like, can you just stick to your day job?
Don't get into my space.
No, I mean, it's nothing. I think it is that. I realize that I enjoy it. And so, whenever anyone asks me to write something, or I drop all
everything
more important work that's piled up and say, yes, I will do this, because that's actually something I really enjoy.
So when you did your show, did you write even then? The podcast that you were doing with IBM?
I mean, yeah, but not as in I was writing more for sort of, like publications and things.
Okay.
Not so much journaling. But yeah, you never know. So.
You never know. And so we're going to see that blog soon.
Inshallah.
One point that I want to talk about is your ability to reach the results you have in mind. Some people are dreamy about their ideas. Some people are driven by a specific end result. You are that person. You have something in mind and you want to go for it. You would create it. And for that matter, you would fight whatever required. You would get any resource possible for the project. You are that person. If it is given to you, people just can go to bed. They're like, oh, Gauri is on it. She'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You're that reliable. You're that accountable. And you're that committed. And that end result orientation sometimes also takes you away from strategizing it, thinking like 5 years down the line. All of that you stay away from. But this is how you function. If you really take projects, anything you want to do. So if you think about writing a blog which would go on, it is tiring. But if you say 12 blogs and that's it, you would finish it.
Yeah.
So
no, I think it's a little scary how true this is. But you're right, and I think that's probably why Jay and I are still married, because he's the other person. He's the one that thinks 5 years ahead. He has a vision that's well beyond my sort of my purview, and I think that's kind of why we manage to work together. Because
but that also means too many disagreements, isn't it?
Yeah, they do. But then I think now I've sort of learned to kind of trust that vision, thrown in with a little skepticism for good measure. But but then he also trusts the fact that I can sort of help him actually execute it. Yeah. And so that's definitely something that I'm aware of as to why we've managed to stay somewhat alive as a couple, but yeah.
So having that clue to have the end result in mind is crucial, because when he speaks dreamy, or he gives you ideas, you're the reality check. You're like, okay, so what are we doing now? And he's like, no, but I'm building the idea, and you'll be like, we'll get to that, and you build it on your own time. But tell me, what are we doing?
No, I am exactly like that, and I'm constantly playing devil's advocate to him to a point where I wonder if I'm crushing all his dreams completely. But and he often jokes about this. He says that if it was up to me, we probably wouldn't have opened this restaurant, because I did try and talk him out of it for a while, saying that it was like the blind leading the lame, frankly. But no, you're right. I think that I sort of also, again, it's a bit of a safe space that I work with. So I do like to achieve results and sort of get things done, but also like within what's within my
within, I wouldn't say comfort zone,
not comfort zone, but I think that it's realistic. Area. It's sort of
within your reach,
achievable.
Yeah,
it's not it's not this. It's not that bold. It's the that's kind of how
I won't comment about bold or not, because slowly and steadily, by doing one step at a time, you can create, and you have created like great results. It's just that you have to focus on smaller steps in the moment. So you require like 3 months plan. You can't do like 3 years and 5 years, and you're like, okay, wait a minute, what do we do now? Now, that is a great quality in terms of getting people to follow your leadership by being specific. So if you, like what you're talking about, delegation, if you can really break it down for them in these 3 months, because you're so close to it. Complete delegation not going to happen. I would say even for next 2 years, do not even go closer to it, because it freaks you out from within. So let's not even go there. But partial delegation, so that you can, release yourself a little bit more and have more time to think about other things that you want to pick up. So partial delegation, where you are constantly, you're very closely reviewing it, monitoring it, making sure it happens in the way you have in mind, would happen. At least for next 2-3 years, there's no scope for complete delegation.
Noted.
So don't even try.
Team, I hope you're listening.
Like, don't even try. Don't even go closer to that space to feel that way. So
you asked me to write my name in capital letters. So why is that?
So sometimes people have illegible signatures. Have you seen that?
Oh, and that's
so why. I'm supposed to like analyze them and talk about their life, but I just cannot read their names. In your case,
it was that deep.
It was that pragmatic and like unromantic. So it started as a pattern, because everywhere, sometimes I keep all my handwriting samples. So after a few years, you're like, okay, but what was the name of the person? In the moment, you're like fully intimate in that conversation, and then you forget. So yeah. So that's okay. Hack. Practical stupid hack. So before we wrap up, I just want to have one little comment, and we can just stop our discussion. If you think that is like going too deep, just tell me, like raise your hand and I will stop. But sometimes when you're very, very clear about your point and you want to either convince the other person or dismiss the dreamy idea that the person is talking about, you become aggressive. Okay, if you're raising your hand, I'm backing off.
I'm not. It's out there now, guys. Jay is gonna love this. I'm not gonna tell him I did this. So let him listen to this episode.
Oh, next time when I'm at your restaurant, I'm gonna find him. I'm like, where is Jay?
He's just gonna be like,
he's busy. He's not available.
Yeah.
So you might not realize it, but sometimes when you're passionate and you're really believing in something, all that passion, that love becomes directed in that aggression, and you believe you're protecting something that is really important, but the aggression takes the better of you, and it becomes the space that you don't want to go, and you don't realize in the moment. So that we would say a habit. It's not a choice. So when any habit that we have, it drives us. So it takes us to a place that we haven't chosen to go. We haven't decided I want to go here and make this choice. You begin, and the patterns or the habit just drives you there. So one more.
So what do you do?
So any habit breaking, any habit, how you take some time to form a habit. If you want to break a habit, it's the same process. Just for you, the 3 points that we spoke about, being aware about when you start feeling overwhelmed, when people step into your space, when you start controlling a situation beyond your, when you want to delegate and you feel uncomfortable about it. And third point is when you start becoming aggressive. Mm-hmm. Just for journaling these 3 things for say 15 days, I think is more than enough because you're highly, highly observant. So you won't miss it. You observe things in other people and, you do not even know that you're observing them so closely until somebody asks you a question or an opinion. And then you give an overview and they're like, oh my God, you know this person so well. And then, I met the person once, but you observed. Mm-hmm. So you absorb and you really pick those minute details. So even for yourself, and this is an activity where you receive a feedback of this nature from the other person, right? I'm telling you about you. So I'm bringing different perspective for you to just look at things. And if you stay with it, the most amazing part about human brain is once you expose it to a problem, it finds a solution. Might not be the best solution, but at least it is always on the process, which I find, it's so great. You don't have to always sit and solve a problem. Yeah. You just have to bring it to your attention and it starts solving itself. So
here's hoping.
Yes. So any other question do you have for me?
No. When can we do this again? I'm kidding. I'm done.
Let me check.
No, but thank you. I think it was scarily true, and I have no idea how you got that from my handwriting. But it's very scary. But it's been super interesting and insightful. And I think that I think it's just about being a little more aware. And I guess this is one podcast that I'm going to be listening to on repeat every so often. So thank you.
And thank you. I know how, I would say, not that easy this was for you to come and to really be open. And it's not about making a choice of being open or not, but sometimes we are private people, reserved, and you don't open up easily. For you, it takes time. Mm-hmm. You build relationships over a period of time, and you give people time. People think you're their friend, but you take time, and you call very few people your friends. So that's a very, very important part, and I think being open, being vulnerable requires courage. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to dive deep.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Let's dive deep on our Friday episode and explore what makes an introvert. What are the traits? What works for an introvert? And what is so stressful? Let's call it Introvert's Guide to Survival. Thank you so much for joining us today on Absolutely Right. Until Friday, enjoy your writing. Happy writing!
माणसं गोलगप्प्यासारखी असतात. हाय हॅलो करताना वेगळी आणि बोलताना वेगळी आणि गप्पा मारताना वेगळी, मित्र झाली की वेगळी आणि शत्रू म्हणून वेगळी, थोडक्यात दिसणारी वेगळी आणि असणारी वेगळी, कधी आंबट, कधी गोड, कधी तिखट, तर कधी चमचमीत आणि कधी कधी हॉट अँड स्पायसी सुद्धा. आणि म्हणूनच गप्पा गोल गप्पा विथ तृप्ती खामकर फक्त तुमच्यासाठी दर बुधवारी IVM पॉडकास्टच्या ऍपवर, वेबसाईटवर किंवा युट्यूब चॅनलवर सुद्धा ऐकू शकता. तुम्ही आमचा पॉडकास्ट वेगवेगळ्या पॉडकास्ट प्लॅटफॉर्मवरती ऐकू शकता. फक्त सर्च करा गोल गप्पा विथ तृप्ती खामकर आणि आमचा पॉडकास्ट ऐकत रहा.
Look! Up in the internet! It's a meme! No! It's a cat video! No! It's the Geek Fruit Podcast!
That's right. We interrupt this riveting broadcast to tell you about our show, The Geek Fruit Podcast, where Tejas, Dinkar, and I, Jishnu, talk about everything in pop culture, including DC, Marvel, Star Wars, Netflix, and everything in between.
You know how your friends hate it when you ramble about some nerdy crap and you just want somebody to listen to you? Well, sorry, there's nothing we can do about that, but come listen to us ramble and it'll almost be like the real thing. Kind of.
Listen to new episodes of the Geek Fruit Podcast every Monday and the Geek Fruit Bulletin every Thursday on iTunes, Google Podcasts, the IVM app, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Happy listening, you nerds.